and welcome back to this channel. I am the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the Gamebook series Fighting Fantasy. Now in this review I'm going to give you a quick look at this title and book number. I shall read the blurb, talk about the plot. We will look at the game mechanics and adventure sheet, run the artwork through this video, and I'll talk a bit about my own likes and dislikes, any fun facts, any errors, and finish on a summary and score out of 10 for this book. So before I get into that, I just want to say a quick thank you to 5 random subscribers who have joined up recently. So just to show a little bit of appreciation to Druid727, Romano, I Am Eon, Gilboa Ori, and Diego Jimenez. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, this book, this is book 27, published in 1987, and it's called Star Strider. And this was written by Luke Sharp. So Luke Sharp did 4 books for this series, and this is his first attempt. And the cover artist for this book was Alan Craddock, and the internal artwork is Gary Mays. So Mr. Mays is back doing the internal stuff for this book. Now, the blurb for this book, I shall read. The unscrupulous Gromulans, who have long been based on the obscure planet Earth, have kidnapped the Galactic President. You are the top road tracer of that sector of the galaxy. You have 48 hours before the top secret content of the President's mind will have been extracted by Gromulan brainscan. Can you overcome your lethal opponents, find the President, and rescue him in time? Okay, so the plot for this one now, unlike most fighting fantasy game books, Star Strider takes place in a sci-fi setting, starting from Earth, so an Earth shuttle station, and your mission is to rescue President Zeren of the Galaxy 1 Federation. The people that are holding him are the Gromulans, these hyper-intelligent sort of humanoids of unknown origin. So the idea in this one is that you are a rogue tracer hired to rescue the Galactic President from a group of hostile aliens who want to extract this key strategic information from inside his head. The aliens in question are the Gromulans, who have settled on Earth. It's like a planet that is unknown to you, so this is way in the distant future. You know very little about Earth, and the most humans have kind of left Earth and settled on these off-world colonies, a bit similar to Blade Runner really in that respect. And the concept of you being a crack bounty hunter is a nod to Philip K. Dick as well. Lots of influence from sort of classic sci-fi with rogue tracers very similar to Blade Runners, and the humanoid Gromulans, they have this untrustworthy, a bit like the untrustworthy Romulans from Star Trek, to be honest. And there's lots of these youth gangs that populate the Earth as well, called the Holgans. And they're based on some sort of ancient religion, and they have all these bizarre names like El, Paul, Ral, and Gunners. A bit more on that later. But that's this story. It's quite straightforward. And good to be back in that sci-fi setting. So, game mechanics and adventure sheet for this book. There's an attribute that makes a return, the fear attribute. So that makes a return appearance as a stat. So again, it's a 1d6 plus 6. And this time it works a bit like testing your luck, except that the fear score does not actually change for the duration of the adventure. So it's good to have fear back again, but this time it's an unchanging value and a measure of your ability to handle the Grom's illusion attacks. If you roll higher than your fear, you also lose stamina due to being so scared. So this is an okay mechanic where you can end up being, frightened to death. So just to give you an idea about how that works, it says here, So illusory monsters and demons. The Groms have a liking for this sort of thing. Always remember that the elusoscope will not be very far away. You will be frightened. Gromulan illusions have been known to make a Brontian take fright. Note that they can also be on a large scale. So the elusoscope is obviously this weapon, and that little comment about being on a large scale is something that comes into play right at the end of this book. So for the first time since Seas of Blood, you have a measure of time as well to work against. So simply labelled time, you begin with 48 units, which despite previous attempts at this with Seas of Blood actually works quite well. It has its problems, but it's an okay mechanic. So this depletes as the book progresses. So 48 time units in which to liberate the president. Otherwise the Groms will extract that information from his head. This does add a sense of urgency and raises the tension of the game, but multiple playing will show that it's practically impossible to run out of time completely, so it's not hugely effective, but could have been made maybe a little bit better, maybe made the book a little bit more challenging, if it was a little bit more consistent. So a bit more on that later, but yeah. Now, throughout this adventure, you have to face physical tasks or special encounters, and those are on the adventure sheet, which you'll see soon. And with the physical tasks, this is usually determined by a 1d6 plus your stamina score. So an example of a special encounter on reference 201 has a game played against a Grom, where your stamina score becomes their cunning, and the encounter follows normal sort of combat rules. The loser is the one whose cunning drops to 0. So that's quite good. It's nice to have a little change, and it kind of spices up this adventure a little bit more. Oxygen is listed as well as an attribute on the adventure sheet, and it's used when you're escaping from a place called the Plaza de Toros. It reaches 0, and if it does that, you can no longer breathe, as you would imagine, and your mission is basically over. It's not a stat as such, actually. It's only used in the Plaza de Toros sequence, which is a shame, as this is quite intriguing when you first encounter this kind of attribute. It adds more tension, so you've got the time and you have this oxygen as well, but it isn't particularly difficult to sort of survive, so it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. So it's a bit like time. I never ran out of time in this book, and I never ran out of oxygen either in that little sequence in the Plaza de Toros. So yeah. If you throw a double 6 at any time in this book while fighting an android, you have found the weak spot and you can deactivate it. This does add a realistic aspect in that robots should have, they should be mechanically vulnerable. It also works well as the weak spot would be well hidden, so the highest possible roll is needed to achieve this. Kind of makes sense. Strangely, there are no instructions about your skill, stamina and luck not being able to exceed the initial score, which is a first, as far as I can tell. So it's easier to win with lower stats in this book. You can increase your stamina by eating, you can end up with a higher luck, because there's lots of luck bonuses, they're quite frequent. So it appears that you can actually exceed your initial scores in this book. There are a few references in this book where you can only access certain rooms or computers by solving fairly complicated mathematical problems. I'll run a few examples here so you can get an idea of what they look like. They will not impact on winning or losing, so the effort into figuring them out is a bit wasted. Plus the actual coordinates that you can get from solving these puzzles are in different and several locations anyway, so it's quite easy to sort of find them later if you can't do the maths. Now this book deals with illusory monsters, demons, and the evil elusoscope is never far away. Now this is used to sort of frighten you, and of course that's where your fear is tested, which you can see on the adventure sheet here. So this adventure sheet has the usual attributes. It's got your skill, your stamina, your luck. But it's also got your fear there as well. So remember Fear from House of Hell by Steve Jackson. So we've got that back. And then of course on the left there, you've got the time, the 48 units of time, any clues where you can write your mathematical puzzle answers down. And of course you've got your oxygen and your calculations for those puzzles as well. So quite a good adventure sheet. It's all crammed in there, which is quite typical of Luke Sharp. He does chuck a lot of stuff into his adventure sheets. But yeah, it's different, so that's good. Right, artwork. So the artwork in this book, the original cover of the book, which you've got here, this original cover was designed and illustrated by Alan Craddock and depicts the scene from reference 325, which is quite a short sort of scene. The cover features like a horned cat-like creature riding down a tunnel on what appears to be a galactic surfboard or Marty McFly's hoverboard. I think you can see that there. He's got there a neutron sword in one hand and a gun in the other. So yeah, it's quite an interest. It's not a well-liked front cover from what I hear, but I don't mind it. The internal illustrations are by Gary Mays, who also illustrated book 18, Rebel Planet, which obviously another sci-fi, and another sci-fi actually, book 22, Robot Commando. And all of the good, same standard really like his work. The internal illustrations have a kind of futuristic feel to them, as you would expect. Lots of shiny, slick appearance, but also some grimy, run-down areas as you progress through this book. Yes, it also gives you a sense of this adventure kind of mostly takes place at night time, so that's quite nice, quite novel. The art suits the tone of this book, has kind of like a nice futuristic feel to it. The writing complements the art and does create the right atmosphere to help you feel like you're really there. I've got a favourite picture, which is this one here. This is this exploding head, so there's a bit in the book. I'll read it to you. Actually, there's a bit in the book where you get involved with this interrogation with this Grom. And of course he uses his fear technique on you. So it says here, "You are right to refuse. Rogue tracers never give any information on likely targets." The Grom accepts this fact and smiles. He stares at you without speaking. You look him up and down and realise how remarkably slight he is and how easy he would be to overpower. Just then his neck lengthens and his head stretches from where he is sitting to right in front of your face. His mouth widens and is full of fangs, about to bite your head off. Test your fear. So of course that's where you test your fear. And if you fail that, you could lose some stamina. So there's all those kind of fear encounters through the book, but this picture I think stands out for me as like the most eye-catching one. Right, let's talk about my likes and dislikes. There are a few issues with this one. Your weapon that you're given at the book, as the book begins, you're given the catchman is the weapon. And this is given to you by your employers. It fires this kind of liquid net, thereby incapacitating your enemy. Sounds pretty good, right? No, it's not. Unfortunately, it has a 33% failure rate. So this is the weapon they give you. I'll read to you the bit that goes with it. So this is the weapon they issue you with. Rogue tracers do not carry many personal arms. The basic weapon is the catchman, designed by Ulador Zoni. It shoots out a fine liquid plastic, which takes the form of netting, wraps itself around the prey, and thus totally incapacitates him, her, or it. Unfortunately, it has a high failure rate, 33%. Rogue tracers are skilled in the use of all weapons, yeah, just as well. Blasters, stun guns, even the old-fashioned neutron swords. But in the last resort, they rely on their quick thinking, fast reflexes, and superb fitness. Yeah. So if it fails, you can always throw your gun at the villain, can't you, like they do in the movies? Yeah, so there's that, which is always a bit odd. But yeah. Also, in most Fighting Fantasy books, if you have to perform a feat or some kind of task, like jumping or climbing or swimming, running, whatever, then you perform a skill roll to determine, your success. Not with Luke Sharp, not in any of his books. I think he probably has that game mechanic, but he's got his own version of it. He makes you roll lots of dice instead. So to give you an idea, there's a few examples in here I've just picked out, so you can see how Luke Sharp does it. So Luke says, so this situation, you stretch out your foot trying to hook the chair and pull it towards you. So usually you'd have a skill roll there. Roll 1 dice, add the number to your stamina score. This is the limit of your stretch. If the distance is greater than the stretch, then you are stuck, and you have failed in your mission. Let's just do another one. What we got? 1, 5, 8. And you're just rolling dice all day, basically. Okay, you cannot go back, so you have to go past the 6 chambers to the exit. Throw 1 die for each chamber in sequence. If at any time the number on the die is the same as the number of the chamber you're passing, then you have been hit and your mission is over. Let's do one more. 1, 6, 7. You carefully make your way. Deduct 2 time units. Throw 1 dice. This is where the beam is. So this is like a security beam that's set to trip you up. Throw a 2nd die. This is where you move to. If your 2 throws match, you have been hit by the beam. Then you turn to another reference. Repeat the procedure 3 more times. If you succeed without breaking a beam, you have reached the door. And it just seems like you could just do a skill roll. And like I say, this is the same in all of his books. A lot of dice rolling. If you don't mind dice rolling, you'll love these books. But I found it a little bit tedious after a while. That's just me. Yeah, the book starts well. It's an exciting interplanetary spy, Earth in the future, rescue the president. But it quickly becomes very rushed and very dull. The first act is quite fun, using attributes, the new mechanics, and then it's like Sharp got a little bit bored and just sped his way through the rest. Very rushed, not that exciting, and to be honest, I was quite glad when it was over. So yeah, it's a shame because like the first act is really interesting and it's all quite new and androids with secrets and, you know, acting as detective, solving clues, and then it just, yeah, Act 2 was rushed and 3, I was done with it by then, to be honest. So yeah, I wasn't particularly impressed. So yeah, that's a bit of a dislike. Fun facts. Luke Sharp is the pseudonym, actually, from a number of sources like Fangs of Fury, which is a later book of his. He's credited in the copyright pages as Alkis Alcibiades. I think I got that right, so yeah. It's quite unusual, actually. The background to the story here is simply called The Mission, but it comes before the instructions on how to play the game book. So kind of reversal on the usual order. The names listed as those hooligans that I mentioned earlier on that are roaming around Earth is a play on words, obviously hooligans, and based on English and European football teams such as El Pool, which is obviously Liverpool FC, and the Gunners, which is obviously Arsenal. So there's that as well. So a couple of fun facts for you. Errors. Now there are a couple of errors in this one. There's no real explanation why having a single cocktail drink right at the very beginning of this book makes you drunk for the entire mission, because that's an option. You get the first reference out of the way and you can choose to eat, have a cocktail, or do nothing. Now if you eat, you gain stamina, but you haven't lost any yet because it's reference 1, so that's what makes me think that you can go above the initial. Or you can have a cocktail, lose a skill point. What? For the entire book? That's got to be strong. That's a strong cocktail. Or do nothing, and if you do nothing, you don't eat or drink, you lose stamina. So yeah. So the link from reference 5 to 112 makes no sense at all. Right, so I'm going to read it and then you can let me know in the comments what you think. So reference 5, you stand to the left terminal. It is obvious that a chess move involving the knight is needed. There is 1 knight and there are 2 possible moves. Do you press knight to king bishop 3 or knight to king's rook 3. So obviously a chess game, right? Now, if I want to do, I don't know, let's go with the second one, knight to king's rook 3, 1, 1, 2. The door slides open and you walk into a darkened room. The door slides shut behind you. You are in Grom Mobius time trap. Time will have no meaning here for you. Gravity seconds will take years to pass. You're doomed. Your mission's over. What else have we got? When you face the android bull in the arena, reference 49, you bring its stamina to 6 or less. If you can do that, you run to a new doorway, so automatically. And you must face the same android bull again at a new paragraph, 378. Okay, so you escape it, but you fight again. But if you roll a double 6, that instant kill, then it's dead. Instant deactivation. So how can you face the bull android twice if you deactivated it the first time? And the only other one I thought I'd mention is on reference 348. Should probably point to 239 instead of 245. So I'll let you decide whether you think that's right next time you play this book. Yeah, so let's do a summary and score for Star Strider. In this book, you are, like I say, a rogue tracer. You've got 48 hours to rescue the Galactic President from the Gromulans before the brain scan extracts top secret information from his brain. To help with your mission, you need to find these planted androids from using your code match. So you hit your code match, and if they can do the same, then you know that they're with you on your side. Sometimes they have been turned by the Gromulans, though, so you never really know if you're going to get anything useful or get attacked. Now, so they might attack you or they might report something useful. So add to this all the elusoscope that creates the illusions. You can assume your mission is not going to be very straightforward. Now, this is the first Fighting Fantasy book by Luke Sharp. It's got a good idea. It's quite original. You have like the 48 units to deduct at certain points throughout the book, so time is ticking, and if you reach 0, you've run out of time, and the Gromulans have penetrated the president's mind. Another cool feature is numbers appearing in the illustrations. I always like that. Plus the use of pictures that become very important later on. So you can see here, this little image, there's these clues hidden in the pictures, and they will help you later on if you can spot them. Some references are quite witty. For example, you are sometimes inconvenienced by public transport, which is unreliable. So most food you eat is described as tasteless. Perhaps Luke Sharp's trying to sort of say something about present day food and public transport. And it's all quite subtle, the humour. It's quite rare that Fighting Fantasy attempts satire anyway, so this does sort of add to the whole experience. There is a lengthy background for you regarding the mission, followed by a sort of brief, including details of the effect of the elusoscope, that weapon, and why the president's information is so critical. So you get a good idea about why you're on this mission and why it's so important. The background is quite interesting, enough to make you want to play the game. But you suspect from the outset that things are going to be very odd. It's going to be a different kind of adventure. And there are some instant deaths caused by going the wrong way, but these make sense in this book, mostly caused by sort of power units failing on a stolen hovercraft or a hover car, or by constantly going the wrong way and not hearing or noticing these clues that are scattered through the book. Common sense will generally see you through, though, so similar to Rings of Kether, you are encouraged to focus on the task at hand and try not to sort of deviate too much. The introductory spiel mentions that XL droids are the Grom's most lethal android creation. They should be avoided at all costs. And this is certainly the case. If you run into these, you'll know about it, and they will kill you, but they are mostly avoidable. So they are mostly avoidable. Another feature of both sci-fi and Luke Sharp adventures is that there are very few items to collect. So remember in Rings of Kether, there was barely anything to collect. Well, this one is not really that much different. So that's a big change. You can pick up a few items, but to be honest, they don't really make any difference to the success of your mission or the failure. Finding items is often an indication in these books that you're on the right path, right? So it's kind of hard in this one to establish how you're doing, how well things are going, and when you really, if you find something that usually is a good clue or a good indicator that you think, right, this key has a number, it's very important. There's none of that in this book. So the main aim is to find these clues instead of items, to kind of help you find your way through this book. So here you've got that instead. And they help you locate the president eventually, and then you can just as easily reach him without the clues. So it's all a bit sort of, I don't know. Another feature of both Sci-Fi and Luke is that this game is itself it sort of involves making your way through different areas. So you've got lots of different locations, very typical Luke Sharp. So in this one, you make your way from Madrid to Rome, to Paris, and then finally to London, so the Underground in London, subway. The first three cities are quite dull in the way they're described. They only have a couple of possible routes through them. There's very little to see or do. The London section consists of a hoverboard trip at front cover through the London Underground, where the time mechanic becomes a little bit inconsistent. So this is the main part where it starts going wrong for me. But also in that underground, if you take a wrong turning, it's an instant kill. If you know where you're headed, it's okay. But that's not easy either, knowing the right path through there, even though you get all these little clues. So there's that. You get a map. I'll put the map up here so you can kind of try and work out where this president is being kept. It took me many attempts to actually find my way through it. The inconsistencies in the time here, when you think about it, when you're traveling to say, from Madrid to Rome, it'll say tick off 2 units. So you think, okay, 2 hours, I guess. But then when you're going between stops on the London Underground, one stop, it'll say, tick off 2 time boxes. So what, it took you 2 hours to do one stop? And then you'll go somewhere else, you'll change platform, and then it's another 2 hours or 2 units. Yeah. I think I've got the feeling Luke Sharp forgot about that mechanic halfway through and then panicked at the end. So the final section is very unbalanced compared to the other 3 books, and it's not much happening other than changing direction or dying. At least the other 3 cities offered something to do, plus the trips from city to city allow you to interact with people, so the non-player characters, that's quite interesting. And when you finally locate the president, he is with a Grom, and then follows a sort of Luke Sharp scenario where you have to keep throwing dice to survive, and a scent. So why not a skill roll? Just roll a skill roll. The final stage is where the Groms get nasty with their illusions, which kind of has a sinister touch to it. But if you've already gotten used to their illusions and their attacks, then it doesn't come as a big surprise, and you don't need to be Pythagoras to work out that it's an illusion. So, all in all, it's a solid structured gamebook, made more enjoyable by its originality. It's quite easy. The general lack of anything happening of interest does make it feel a bit pointless, making it one of the more sort of forgettable adventures. Maybe slightly underwhelming entry. So for that reason, I would probably give it a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for the Star Strider. Right, that's the review. So I hope you liked that. Maybe give it a thumbs up, maybe share it, and give me a comment. Tell me what you thought of this book, and whether you liked it or whether you didn't like it. And the next book we'll do is going to be book 28, and that is Phantoms of Fear. So catch me in that one. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.